The sound of fabric tearing is surprisingly quiet. Just a whisper, really, like a secret being revealed. That Saturday morning in March, as I knelt on the cold concrete of our garage floor, that small rip in Emma's gym bag would become the sound that ended my marriage. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Stories like this, stories of betrayal and discovery, and the peculiar kind of revenge that comes from simply maintaining your dignity, they need to be told properly. From the beginning. My name is Ryan Mitchell. At 41, I was what most people would consider successful. Senior attorney at Kirkland & Ellis, on track for equity partnership. A Tudor-style house in Winnetka that looked like something from an architectural magazine. A wine collection worth more than most people's cars. And a wife who, after 15 years of marriage, I thought I knew everything about. Emma was beautiful in that specific North Shore way blonde hair that she insisted was natural despite regular salon appointments. A body maintained by Pilates and careful eating. A wardrobe full of understated designer pieces that whispered rather than shouted their price tags. She worked as a senior analyst at Abbott Pharmaceuticals, climbing the corporate ladder with the same determination she'd brought to everything since I'd met her at Northwestern. That Saturday started like hundreds before it. Emma was at her Saturday morning yoga class, or so she said, and had asked me to detail her Audi Q7. She was particular about her car, treated it like an extension of herself. White leather interior, not a speck of dust allowed, the kind of pristine that made you afraid to eat anything within 50 feet of it. I'd pulled into the garage with my supplies, microfiber cloths, expensive leather cleaner, the vacuum with the special attachments. It was mindless work, the kind that let my brain wander through depositions and contract negotiations while my hands moved automatically. The gym bag was wedged under the passenger seat, pushed far back like it had been forgotten. I recognized it, the expensive Lululemon one I'd bought her last Christmas, black with rose gold zippers. As I pulled it free, the fabric caught on something under the seat, and the side pocket tore with that whisper-quiet sound. The contents scattered across the garage floor. Hair ties, tampons, a phone charger, lip balm, hand sanitizer, the detritus of modern female life. I knelt to gather everything up, already composing my apology for damaging her bag when I saw it. A cocktail napkin, crisp white cotton with Apex Chicago embossed in gold lettering across the top. I'd heard of Apex, of course. You couldn't work in Chicago's upper echelons without hearing about it. The private club occupied the top floors of a building on Michigan Avenue, so exclusive that money alone couldn't buy you entry. You needed connections, pedigree, the right kind of power. Partners at my firm mentioned it in hushed tones, like Catholics discussing Vatican treasures. The napkin had writing on it, a signature line for a bar tab. $467.83, signed with Emma's flourishing signature. The date was clear in blue ink, Thursday, March 9th. Last Thursday. When Emma had told me she was at her monthly book club meeting in Lincoln Park, discussing some literary fiction I'd pretended to care about. There was a lipstick mark on one corner of the napkin, the distinctive shade of red Emma always wore. Chanel Rouge Allure in Passion. I knew because I'd bought it for her at Neiman Marcus last Christmas, remembered the saleswoman saying it was a color for a woman who knows what she wants. Tangled in the scattered items was something else, a black fabric wristband, elegant and understated, with the number 2749 embossed in silver thread. Not a fitness tracker or concert wristband. This was something altogether different. The fabric was expensive, the kind of weave that felt like money. I sat back on my heels, the napkin in one hand and the wristband in the other, while my brain, trained by 15 years of legal practice to process evidence, began connecting dots I didn't want connected. "Hey, honey, everything okay out there?" Emma's voice drifted from the kitchen. She was back from yoga, making her green smoothie, Probably about to suggest we hit the farmer's market like we did every Saturday. Fine, I called back, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. Just finishing up. I slipped the napkin and wristband into my pocket, then gathered the rest of the items back into the torn bag. My hands were steady, my breathing even. Whatever was happening, panic wouldn't help. Information would. Inside, Emma was at the kitchen island, still in her yoga clothes, form-fitting black leggings and a sports bra that showed off the abs she worked so hard for. Her hair was in a high ponytail, and she was slicing fruit with the Henkel's knives we'd received as a wedding gift. "You're the best," she said, without looking up, focused on creating perfect uniformity in her strawberry slices. "I know how you hate car duty." "It's fine," I said, setting her torn bag on the counter. "Though your bag caught on something, the pocket ripped." She glanced at it briefly. "Oh, that old thing? I've been meaning to replace it anyway. Maybe we can stop by Lululemon after the market." That old thing. The bag I'd given her 3 months ago. "Sure," I agreed. "I'm going to shower first." "Don't be long. You know how picked over everything gets after noon." I watched her for a moment, the practiced efficiency of her movements, the way she hummed off-key to whatever was playing in her AirPods, completely unaware that her husband's pocket contained evidence of what? I didn't know yet. But my gut, the same instinct that told me when a witness was lying in deposition, was screaming that something was very wrong. In my home office, door locked, I pulled out the napkin and examined it more closely. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind of quality that suggested Apex didn't cut corners on anything. The date and time were printed at the top, March 9th, 11:47 p.m. Nearly midnight on a Thursday, when she'd claimed to be discussing plot themes with her book club. The same book club that supposedly met at her friend Patricia's house in Lincoln Park, usually wrapping up by 9:30 because everyone had work the next morning. I opened my laptop and pulled up our joint credit card statement. Emma and I had always been transparent about finances. We made roughly the same amount, pooled everything, never questioned each other's purchases. Trust, we'd always said, was the foundation of our marriage. The statement loaded, and I scrolled to March 9th. There it was. Apex Chicago, $467.83. Posted at 11:52 p.m. I kept scrolling backward. February 9th. Apex Chicago, $384.21. January 12th. Apex Chicago, $521.94. December 15th. Apex Chicago, $436.77. Always Thursdays. Always late night. Always when Emma had book club, or was working late on a project, or visiting her sister Claire in Evanston. 4 months? At least. I poured myself a scotch from the bottle I kept in my desk. Macallan 18, because if you're going to drink while your world reshapes itself, it might as well be good scotch. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the realization settling into my chest like shrapnel. "Ryan? Are you coming?" Emma's voice from downstairs. "I want to get there before all the good tomatoes are gone." 5 minutes, I called back. I closed the laptop and locked the napkin and wristband in my desk drawer. Then I showered, dressed in the Saturday casual uniform of khakis and a polo, and spent 3 hours at the farmer's market with my wife, making small talk with vendors and neighbors, while my mind cataloged every lie she'd told me in the last 4 months. That night, Emma made dinner. Salmon with that mustard glaze I loved, roasted vegetables, a bottle of Sancerre we'd been saving. She chattered about work, about the new Pilates instructor who was absolutely brutal but so worth it, about whether we should finally pull the trigger on that kitchen renovation we'd been discussing for years. I watched her across our dining room table in the house we'd bought 10 years ago and tried to reconcile this woman with the one who'd been at Apex until midnight on Thursday. The candlelight caught her wedding ring, 2 carats, cushion cut, a classic that had cost me 3 months' salary when I was a second-year associate. You're quiet tonight, she observed, refilling my wine glass. Tough case? Just thinking, I said. Well, stop it, she laughed. You know I hate it when you go all brooding lawyer on me. After dinner, she suggested we watch something on Netflix. We curled up on the couch like we had 1,000 times before, her head on my shoulder, her hand resting on my chest. She smelled like she always did. That specific combination of Chanel No. 5 and the organic shampoo she bought at Whole Foods. I love you, she murmured during a quiet part of the show. I love you too, I replied automatically. But did I? Did she? Or were we just two people who'd gotten so good at playing married that we'd forgotten we were acting? Sunday, I told Emma I needed to go into the office. She barely looked up from her iPad, where she was scrolling through Pinterest for kitchen renovation ideas. On a Sunday? Really? The Morrison acquisition. You know how it is. She did know how it was. Or at least, she knew how it used to be, back when I actually did work Sundays on big deals. Back when I told her the truth about where I was going. Instead of the office, I drove to a Starbucks in Northbrook where no one would recognize me and opened my laptop. First, I needed to understand what Apex actually was. The club's website was deliberately minimal, just a logo and a member login portal. But Google provided more information. Society pages from the Tribune and Chicago Magazine, photos from charity galas, passing mentions in business journals. Apex was where deals happened, where power congregated, where Chicago's elite went to see and be seen. It was also, according to some carefully worded society gossip columns, where married executives went to conduct affairs with maximum discretion. The club's privacy policies were legendary. No photos allowed inside, no social media. What happened at Apex stayed at Apex, until now. I spent 3 hours researching, taking notes like I was preparing for trial. Apex membership required sponsorship from 3 existing members. The initiation fee was $50,000. Monthly dues were $2,500. The waiting list was typically 2 years, unless you had exceptional connections. The wristband, I learned from a Tribune-style piece, was given to special guests, those who weren't members but had been vouched for by someone with significant standing. The number was unique, trackable, a way for the club to maintain security while allowing members to bring in select visitors. So Emma wasn't a member. She was someone's guest. Someone who'd been bringing her there for at least 4 months. Someone whose standing at Apex was solid enough that staff wouldn't question their regular Thursday night appearances. I needed to get inside Apex. And for that, I needed to become a member. Monday morning, I arrived at the office early and went straight to Martin Brown's corner suite. Martin was the managing partner, a man who collected powerful connections like some people collected art. More importantly, he owed me. I'd saved his son from a DUI charge that would have derailed his medical school applications. Ryan, he greeted me, gesturing to the leather chairs in his sitting area. What brings you by so early? I need a favor, Martin. A big one. He leaned back, studying me with the shrewd eyes that had built our firm into a powerhouse. This wouldn't have anything to do with Apex, would it? I tried not to show my surprise. Why would you think that? Because Charles Worthington called me yesterday. Said you'd been making inquiries about membership. Said your wife's name had come up in an interesting context. The Chicago elite. Everyone knew everyone and everyone talked. I need to get in there, Martin. It's personal. I gathered that. He stood, walked to his window with its panoramic view of the city. Emma's a lovely woman, Ryan. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm sure I need to know the truth. He nodded slowly. I can get you in. I'll sponsor you along with Judge Rothstein and Senator Blackwood. But Ryan, once you open this door, you can't close it. Are you prepared for what you might find? I'm a lawyer, Martin. I'm always prepared. He turned back to me with something like pity in his eyes. No, my friend. You're a husband, and that's entirely different. The membership process, even expedited, took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of interviews, background checks, references, 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal at home while I watched Emma prepare for her Thursday book clubs with new eyes. I noticed things I'd missed before. The extra care she took with her makeup on Thursdays. The way she'd shower before leaving, not after yoga like usual. The new lingerie that appeared in her drawer, La Perle and Agent Provocateur, brands she'd always claimed were stupidly overpriced for something no one sees. Someone was seeing them. During those 3 weeks, I also hired a private investigator. Tom Briggs came recommended by our firm's head of security, a former FBI agent who specialized in delicate matrimonial matters. I don't need photos, I told him at our initial meeting. I just need to know who she's meeting. He nodded, making notes in a small pad. Thursday nights at APX. Shouldn't be too difficult. The club's exclusive, but people are creatures of habit. Same valet, same bartender, same table. Someone will talk. Discretion is paramount, I emphasized. This can't get back to my wife. Mr. Mitchell, if I wasn't discreet, I'd have been out of business 20 years ago. You'll have your information. He called me a week later. Marcus Webb, Senior Vice President at Pharmatech Industries. Married, 2 kids, house in Lake Forest. He's been a member at APX for 5 years. Has a standing reservation every Thursday night, table for 2 in the corner booth of the main dining room. Marcus Webb. The name was vaguely familiar, floating in that space where you've heard something but can't place where. I thanked Briggs and told him to send his final report to my office, not my home. That night, I sat across from Emma at dinner and studied her with new knowledge. She was having an affair with Marcus Webb, a competitor, a married man, someone important enough to have a standing reservation at Chicago's most exclusive club. You're staring, she said, not looking up from her salad. Am I? Yes? Do I have something on my face? No. You look perfect, as always. She smiled at that, the same smile that had knocked me sideways in a campus coffee shop 15 years ago. Flatterer, what do you want? Nothing. Can a man admire his wife? He can, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. And she appreciates it. Her wedding ring caught the light, and I wondered if she took it off on Thursdays, or if Marcus Webb didn't care that he was sleeping with another man's wife. The membership approval came through on a Tuesday. Charles Worthington III called personally to congratulate me and invite me for my inaugural visit. We're delighted to welcome you to Apex, Mr. Mitchell. I think you'll find our Thursday evenings particularly illuminating. There was something in his tone, a careful emphasis that told me he knew exactly why I joined. The Chicago elite, protecting their own even as they gossiped about each other's scandals. I decided to make my first visit on a Wednesday to get the lay of the land without risking an encounter with Emma. I told her I had a client dinner. Which client? She asked, not looking up from her phone. Morrison Industries. The acquisition. I thought that closed last week. She was right. It had. When had she started paying such close attention to my deals? Celebration dinner, I covered smoothly. You know how these CEO types like their victory laps. She murmured, already lost in whatever was on her screen. Don't wait up. I might go to the late yoga class. Apex was everything I'd imagined and more. The entrance was discreetly marked, just a brass plaque beside an unmarked door. The doorman, a dignified black man in his 60s, greeted me by name even though we'd never met. "Good evening, Mr. Mitchell. Welcome to Apex. Mr. Worthington is expecting you." The elevator required a special key, whisking me up to the 52nd floor in silence. When the doors opened, I stepped into another world. The D. Core was old money perfection, dark wood paneling, Persian rugs that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries, leather furniture that looked like it had been there since the Gilded Age, but was probably replaced yearly to maintain that specific patina of comfortable wealth. Charles Worthington looked exactly like his name suggested. Tall, thin, with the kind of patrician features that belonged on currency. He greeted me with a firm handshake and knowing eyes. "Mr. Mitchell, so pleased you could join us. Shall I give you the tour?" He showed me through the various rooms, the main lounge with its spectacular city views, the dining rooms ranging from intimate to grand, the library with first editions behind glass, the humidor that smelled like Cuba before the embargo. "Our members value privacy above all else," he explained as we walked. "What happens within these walls remains within these walls. Photographs are forbidden. Social media posts are grounds for immediate revocation of a membership. We cater to those who require discretion in their personal and professional lives." "I can appreciate that," I said. "I'm certain you can." He paused at the entrance to the main dining room. "This is where we serve dinner Thursday through Saturday. Reservations are recommended, particularly for Thursday evenings. They can be quite popular." I scanned the room, noting the corner booth with its perfect sightlines and intimate lighting. Table 12, according to the discreet brass plaque. "I'd like to make a reservation," I said. "Thursday evening, table 15 if it's available." He raised an eyebrow slightly. Table 15 had a direct view of table 12. "Of course, Mr. Mitchell. What time would you prefer?" 7:30. An hour before Marcus Webb's standing reservation. "Consider it done. Will you be dining alone?" "Yes." "Very good." He made a note in a leather-bound book. "Is there anything else you'd like to know about our facilities?" "Just one thing," I said. "I may have some friends who are members. Marcus Webb? I believe he's in pharmaceuticals." Charles's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Mr. Webb is indeed a member. One of our regulars, in fact, particularly on Thursday evenings. And his wife. Victoria, I believe. Mrs. Webb is listed on his membership, but rarely attends. I believe she prefers the Standard Club for her social engagements." Of course she did. Because Marcus Webb brought someone else to Apex on Thursdays. I thanked Charles for the tour and spent another hour in the lounge, nursing a whiskey that cost more than most people's car payments and observing the members. They were exactly what you'd expect. CEO types, politicians, old money matriarchs, new money entrepreneurs trying to buy respectability. And threading through them all were younger people, beautiful people, whose presence seemed less about business and more about pleasure. The companions, the ones who made Thursday nights popular. I left around 9, over-tipping the bartender and valet to ensure they'd remember me favorably. In this world, loyalty was bought in increments, and I intended to purchase as much as necessary. At home, Emma was already in bed, reading on her iPad. She looked up when I entered. "How was dinner?" "Productive," I said, loosening my tie. "Might have more of them coming up." "The joys of partnership track," she said sympathetically. "Just don't burn yourself out, okay? I worry about you." Did she? Did she worry about me while she was at Apex with Marcus Webb? Did she think about me at all on Thursday nights? "I'll be careful," I promised. She smiled and went back to her book. I showered and slipped into bed beside her, and we lay there like parallel lines, close but never touching, while I counted the days until Thursday. Wednesday, I met with Catherine Brown to begin preparing for what might come next. We sat in her corner office, the city spreading out below us like a map of possibilities. I want to be clear, she said, fingers steepled. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state. Infidelity itself doesn't impact division of assets unless marital funds were used to conduct the affair. They were, I said. Credit card statements show thousands in charges over at least 4 months. Good. Document everything. If you can prove dissipation of marital assets, it could significantly impact the settlement. What about your home, investments, retirement accounts? We spent 2 hours reviewing our financial situation. 15 years of building wealth together, and it could all be unwound in a matter of months. The house in Winnetka worth $2.8 million. Investment accounts totaling $1.6 million. Our wine collection, art, cars, even the frequent flyer miles we'd accumulated on trips we'd taken together. What about her career? Catherine asked. Any concern about corporate espionage? Sharing proprietary information with a competitor? I hadn't even considered that angle. I don't know. Maybe. Something to investigate. If she's been sharing confidential information with Mr. Webb, her company might terminate her for cause. No severance, possible legal action. It would impact her ability to claim alimony. The lawyer in me admired the strategy, even as the husband in me recoiled. Was this what we'd become? 2 people calculating how to destroy each other most efficiently. Let's see what Thursday brings, I said. Then we'll know how to proceed. That night, Emma announced she had book club the next evening. She said it casually, while stir-frying vegetables for dinner, like it was just another normal Thursday in our normal life. What are you reading this month? I asked. She paused for just a fraction of a second. Oh, that new literary fiction everyone's talking about. You know, the one that was on the Times bestseller list? Which one? God, what's it called? Patricia picked it. Something about a woman finding herself after divorce. She laughed, the sound just slightly too bright. Depressing choice, if you ask me. A woman finding herself after divorce. The irony was sharp enough to cut. Sounds heavy, I agreed. Will you be late? Probably. You know how Patricia likes her wine. We'll probably end up solving all the world's problems over too much Pinot. I watched her lie with the same ease she'd probably been lying for months. No tells, no nervousness, just casual deception served alongside dinner, like it was another course. Thursday arrived gray and cold, March in Chicago asserting itself with wind that cut through even the best coat. I left the office at 6, telling my secretary I had a client engagement. The Morrison dinner? She asked, because good secretaries remember everything. Different client, I said. Personal referral. I arrived at Apex at 7:15 and was escorted to table 15 by a hostess who seemed to recognize me despite this being my first Thursday visit. Your usual table, Mr. Mitchell? She asked, then caught herself. I apologize. I mistook you for someone else. No problem, I said easily. I must have one of those faces. She seated me with a view of the entire dining room, including perfect sightlines to table 12. I ordered a bottle of Bordeaux, something expensive enough to justify occupying a prime table for hours, and settled in to wait. The dining room filled gradually. I recognized several faces from Chicago's business pages, a federal judge, the owner of the Bulls. Thursday night at Apex was clearly the place to be seen while not being seen. At 8:35, they arrived. Emma entered first, and my breath caught despite everything. She wore a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, her hair up in an elegant twist that showed off the diamond earrings I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. She moved through the room like she belonged there, like she'd been doing this every Thursday for months, which of course she had. Marcus Webb followed, his hand resting on the small of her back with casual possession. He was handsome in that specific way of successful middle-aged men, silver at the temples, custom suit, the kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. They were shown to table 12, sliding into the booth with practiced ease. Not across from each other like business colleagues, but side by side, their bodies angled toward each other with unmistakable intimacy. A waiter appeared immediately with champagne. Dame Pérignon, already chilled. Their usual, apparently. They toasted, and I watched Emma laugh at something Marcus said, throwing her head back in a way that was achingly familiar and utterly foreign at the same time. I documented everything in my mind with the same precision I brought to depositions. The way his hand found hers on the table. The way she leaned into him when she laughed. The way they looked at each other like they were the only two people in a room full of Chicago's elite. They ordered without looking at menus. They had favorites here, routines established over months of Thursdays. The champagne flowed, their conversation grew more animated, and I watched my wife fall in love with another man in real time. Because that's what it was. This wasn't just an affair, wasn't just physical attraction or the thrill of deception. The way they looked at each other, touched each other, existed in each other's space. This was love. Or at least what they believed was love. At one point, Marcus excused himself, probably to the restroom. Emma pulled out her phone, and I watched her face soften as she typed. My own phone buzzed a moment later. Book club is dragging on. Susan brought out the wine, and now everyone's doing dramatic readings. Kill me now. Home late. Love you. I stared at the message, at those two words at the end. Love you. Sent while she sat in another man's booth, wearing a dress he'd probably bought her, drinking champagne he'd ordered. I typed back. No problem. Enjoy your evening. Marcus returned, sliding back into the booth, closer this time. His arm went around her shoulders, and she melted into him like it was the most natural thing in the world. They ordered dessert, chocolate souffle, 2 spoons, and fed each other like newlyweds, while my wine turned to acid in my stomach. It was 10:15 when I finally stood. They were laughing, lost in their own world, when I walked across the dining room with measured steps. I pulled the wristband from my pocket, 2749, her number, her admission to this world, and placed it on their table. You dropped this in the car, I said quietly. The transformation was instant. Emma's laughter died mid-breath, the color draining from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. Marcus froze with his champagne glass halfway to his lips, his eyes darting between Emma and me, like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't compute. I pulled out the empty chair at their table and sat down, movements deliberate and calm. The dining room around us had gone quiet. That particular hush that falls when everyone knows they're witnessing something significant. Hello, Marcus, I said, extending my hand like we were meeting at a conference. I'm Ryan Mitchell, Emma's husband. She's told me nothing about you, though apparently everyone here knows you both quite well. Marcus set down his glass with shaking hands. Emma hadn't moved, hadn't breathed. The wristband sat between us like evidence at trial. Ryan, Emma finally whispered, I can explain. I'm sure you can, I nodded. You've had 4 months of Thursdays to practice your explanations. Book club must have given you lots of time to workshop your story. This isn't what it looks like. Marcus finally found his voice. It was deeper than I'd expected, with a hint of East Coast prep school. Really? I gestured at their intimate position, the champagne, the dessert they'd been sharing. Because it looks like my wife has been having an affair with a married pharmaceutical executive every Thursday night while telling me she's discussing literature with her friends. But please, correct me if I'm misinterpreting. Ryan, please. Emma's voice was barely audible. Not here. But this is your place, I countered. Table 12, every Thursday at 8:30. The staff knows your orders, your preferences. This is where you chose to conduct your affair, so it seems fitting we discuss it here. A waiter approached nervously. I waved him away with a smile that probably looked more predatory than reassuring. 4 months, I continued, keeping my voice conversational. That's what the credit card records show, though I suppose it could be longer if you were paying cash before. When did it start, Emma? Was it that pharmaceutical conference in December? The one where you texted me every night about how boring the sessions were? She flinched. Marcus's arm had fallen from her shoulders, his face cycling through emotions, fear, anger, calculation. Mr. Mitchell, he started, trying for authority. Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private. Like your office, I suggested. Or maybe your home in Lake Forest. I'm sure Victoria would love to join our discussion. Does she know about your standing Thursday reservation? The color drained from his face at his wife's name. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. You're Marcus Webb, Senior VP at Pharmatech. Married, 2 daughters at Latin school. Member here for 5 years. Standing reservation every Thursday for your business dinners. Except your business is my wife. The dining room was completely silent now. Every eye was on us, though most pretended to be fascinated by their plates. This would be the talk of Chicago by morning. I particularly enjoyed the text 20 minutes ago, I told Emma, about Susan's dramatic readings. Very creative. Though you might want to coordinate stories better. According to Patricia's Instagram, she's in Miami this week. Emma's hand trembled as she reached for her champagne glass. I moved it out of reach. You don't get to numb yourself through this, I said quietly. You chose this moment every Thursday for 4 months. Now you get to live in it. You don't know what it's been like, she whispered. Our marriage? Our marriage? What? My voice rose slightly for the first time. Our marriage where I trusted you? Where I believed you every Thursday when you kissed me goodbye? Where I worked 70-hour weeks to build the life you're currently destroying? That's exactly it. She found her voice, eyes flashing. 70-hour weeks. You're married to that firm, not me. When was the last time we did anything together that wasn't a client dinner or firm event? So you decided the solution was Marcus. I gestured at him. A married man with children? That's your answer to feeling neglected. We fell in love, she said, chin rising defiantly. It just happened. Nothing just happens, I countered. You made choices. Every Thursday you chose to lie. You chose to put on a dress I've never seen, come to a place I've never been, and betray everything we built together. Ryan, Marcus interjected, trying to regain control. Emma and I are done, I finished. Whatever this was, it ends tonight. The divorce papers will be at your office Monday morning, Emma. As for you, Marcus, I imagine Victoria will be very interested in your Thursday night business development. I stood, straightening my tie with the same gesture I used before closing arguments. Oh, and Emma. That dress is beautiful. Though I wonder if Marcus knows you charged it to our joint account, just like the La Perla lingerie, just like everything else you've been using to conduct this affair. Her face went white. She hadn't realized I'd been tracking the money. Enjoy your dessert, I said, gesturing at the untouched souffle. I understand it's excellent, though at $400 a Thursday it should be. I turned and walked across the silent dining room, feeling every eye follow me. At the door, Charles Worthington stood waiting. Mr. Mitchell, he said quietly. I apologize for any distress our establishment may have caused. Your establishment just gave me clarity, Charles. That's worth any price of admission. He nodded gravely. Your membership remains in good standing. You're welcome here anytime. Thank you, I said. Though I think Thursday nights just opened up in my calendar. The valet had my car waiting. News traveled fast at Apex. As I drove through the Chicago night, I allowed myself exactly 1 mile to feel the pain. 1 mile to grieve the marriage I thought I had, the woman I thought I knew, the life I thought we were building together. Then I called David Steinberg. Ryan? His voice was thick with sleep. It's past 10. What's wrong? I need the best divorce attorney you know. Not good. The best. Jesus. I heard him sit up, his wife murmuring in the background. Not you and Emma? Especially me and Emma. What happened? She's having an affair. Has been for months. I just confronted them at Apex. You confronted them? Ryan, what were you thinking? I was thinking like a lawyer, I said. Now I need you to think like one too. Can you help me or not? Of course I can help. His voice shifted to professional mode. Catherine Brown. She's the best in the city for high net worth divorces, particularly when infidelity is involved. I'll call her first thing. Tonight, I said. Call her tonight. Ryan. Tonight, David. I want papers drawn up by Monday. Clean, surgical, done. All right, I'll make it happen. Where are you staying? I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'll get a hotel. The peninsula has good security. They're used to delicate situations. Ryan, I'm sorry. Don't be. Just help me end this right. I checked into the peninsula and texted Emma that I was staying in the city. She didn't respond. Probably still at Apex, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of her Thursday night fantasy. Catherine Brown called within an hour. Even at 11 p.m., she sounded alert and professional. David filled me in on the basics, she said. We should meet first thing tomorrow. Can you do 7 a.m. I can do now if you want. She laughed, short and sharp. I appreciate the urgency, but we'll do this right. 7 a.m., my office. Bring any documentation you have, credit card statements, phone records, anything that proves the affair and the dissipation of marital assets. I have everything, I assured her. Good. Mr. Mitchell, I know this is difficult, but I need you to understand something. Once we file, there's no going back. Are you certain this is what you want? I thought about Emma in that booth, the way she'd looked at Marcus Webb, the months of lies. I'm certain. Then we'll proceed. Don't go home tonight. Don't contact your wife. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or that could complicate our position. Can you do that? I'm a lawyer, Miss Brown. I know how to control myself. Good, because tomorrow we go to war. But war, it turned out, was too dramatic a term for what followed. It was more like surgery, precise, methodical, cutting away the diseased tissue of our marriage with minimal bleeding. Emma tried to contact me throughout the weekend. Calls, texts, emails that progressed from apologetic to angry to desperate. I forwarded them all to Catherine and maintained radio silence. Please talk to me, one voicemail pleaded. It's not what you think. Marcus means nothing. It was just a mistake. I love you. Please come home. But love wasn't something you could claim while sitting in another man's booth. It wasn't a word you could text while lying about where you were. Love was action, choice, truth. And Emma had chosen differently. By Monday, Chicago's professional gossip network was in overdrive. The confrontation at Apex had been witnessed by too many connected people to stay quiet. My phone rang constantly. Colleagues, clients, friends who'd heard various versions of the story and wanted to know if it was true. I let them all go to voicemail and focused on the work. Catherine had been right about the documentation. The credit card statements alone told a damning story. Not just Apex, but hotels. The 4 seasons when she'd claimed to be at a conference. The Ritz, when she was supposedly visiting her sister. Even a weekend at the St. Regis that she told me was a work retreat. This is good, Catherine said, reviewing the evidence. Clear dissipation of marital assets. She used joint funds to conduct the affair. Under Illinois law, she'll need to reimburse the marital estate for half of all affair-related expenses. The number was staggering. Over 4 months, Emma and Marcus had spent nearly $50,000 on their Thursday nights and secret weekends. Champagne and hotel suites and designer dresses charged to our accounts while I sat at home, trusting my wife. What about Webb? I asked. Any leverage there? Catherine smiled like a shark. I may know Victoria Webb's attorney. Apparently, she's been suspicious for months. Your confrontation was the confirmation she needed. She's filing tomorrow. Will she need my testimony? Possibly. Are you willing? I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Yes. The professional fallout came faster than even I expected. Pharmatech announced Marcus's leave of absence on Tuesday. By Thursday, how fitting, it had become a mutual decision to part ways. The official line was restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. You don't restructure your way out of a senior VP unless something significant happened. Emma's company was more subtle, but no less decisive. She was reassigned from the executive floor to a middle management position in a different division. Her office with a view became a cubicle. Her expense account was frozen. Her company car privileges revoked. They can't officially fire her for having an affair, Catherine explained. But they can make her life miserable enough that she'll quit. And given that it was with a competitor's executive, they're probably investigating whether any proprietary information was shared. I hadn't even considered corporate espionage, but of course the companies would. Pillow talk between competitors was a security risk. Every conversation Emma and Marcus had could have involved protected information. Her career, built over 15 years, was crumbling as fast as our marriage. The divorce negotiations began 2 weeks after the confrontation. Emma's attorney was a bulldog named Richard Stevenson, who opened with bluster about equitable distribution. Catherine shut him down with surgical precision. The evidence was overwhelming. Receipts, credit card statements, witness accounts from Apex staff who'd been quietly deposed. The Thursday night pattern was undeniable. Your client conducted a 4-month affair using marital assets, Catherine stated calmly. She exposed both herself and my client to potential corporate liability. She systematically lied about her whereabouts. Under Illinois law, this constitutes dissipation of marital assets. Emma sat across the conference table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple suit that screamed, "Bought off the rack." Her face was pale, makeup carefully applied, but unable to hide the stress lines that had appeared in just 2 weeks. I made a mistake, she said quietly, ignoring her lawyer's warning look. But I don't deserve to lose everything. You made choices, I corrected. Every Thursday for 4 months. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. Her lawyer tried to argue for a 50-50 split. Catherine methodically destroyed each argument. The hotel receipts were particularly damaging. Luxury suites paid for with our joint credit cards, champagne, and room service that cost more than some people's mortgage payments. We'll need reimbursement for half of all affair-related expenses, Catherine noted, tallying figures on her legal pad. That's $23,500 that needs to be accounted for in the division of assets. Emma's face went white. She hadn't done the math, hadn't realized how much her Thursday nights had actually cost. By the end of the day, she'd agreed to a 70/30th split in my favor. She'd keep her 401k, her car, and enough cash to start over. I'd keep the house, the investments, and most importantly, my dignity. As we signed the papers, Emma looked at me directly for the first time since that night at Apex. I loved you, she whispered. Whatever you think, I did love you. I know, I said, and I meant it. She had loved me in her way, just not enough to choose our marriage over her Thursday nights with Marcus Webb. Marcus's divorce was messier. Victoria Webb, it turned out, was not the forgiving type. She'd hired a private investigator months before I'd found that wristband, suspicious of his late nights and weekend conferences. The PI had photos, credit card records, even a few grainy shots of Marcus and Emma entering hotels. But the apex confrontation was the smoking gun she needed. My written statement about what I'd witnessed, combined with the club's records and the very public nature of the scene, gave her everything necessary to invoke the infidelity clause in their prenup. Marcus fought it, of course. Men like him always fought. But the evidence was overwhelming. He'd been conducting an affair in the most public private venue in Chicago. Too many people had seen them together. Too many Thursday nights had been documented. The professional destruction continued in parallel with the personal. Marcus's reputation in pharmaceutical circles was radioactive. Pharmatech had put out word that he was unreliable, corporate code for untouchable. His LinkedIn profile quietly updated from senior VP to consultant, that universal euphemism for unemployed and unemployable. He reached out to me once, about a month after everything exploded. An email to my work account, carefully worded like he was afraid of legal implications. Ryan, I want to apologize for my role in what happened. Emma and I never intended for things to develop as they did. I take full responsibility for my actions and the pain they caused. I hope someday you can forgive me. Marcus. I stared at the email for a long time before typing my response. Marcus, forgiveness isn't mine to give. That's between you and your wife, your daughters, your conscience. What I can tell you is that Emma is now your responsibility. You destroyed 2 marriages for those Thursday nights. I hope they were worth it. Ryan. I never heard from him again. Emma and I had one final encounter, 3 months after the divorce was finalized. I was at Whole Foods in Lincoln Park, not my usual store, but I'd been meeting a client nearby. She was in the cheese section, studying labels like they contained the secrets of the universe. She looked different. Thinner, her hair shorter and darker. The designer clothes replaced with off-the-rack professional wear. Still beautiful, but in a worn way, like an expensive car that hadn't been maintained. She saw me before I could decide whether to leave. Her face cycled through emotions, surprise, hope, fear, resignation. Ryan. Emma. We stood there awkwardly, 2 people who'd once shared everything, now strangers in a grocery store. You look good, she offered. Thanks, you too. She laughed, short and bitter. Liar, I look like hell. How's work? Gone, she admitted. They made it impossible to stay. I'm in medical device sales now. Territory covers the western suburbs. Lots of driving. I'm sorry. Are you? She studied my face. I suppose you are. You always were too decent for your own good. How's Marcus? I asked, not sure why I wanted to know. Her face tightened. In Milwaukee. We tried to make it work after everything. But it turns out affairs don't translate well to reality. Who knew? You're not together? She shook her head. Turns out when you destroy 2 marriages for someone, there's a lot of pressure to make it worth it. We couldn't handle the weight of what we'd done. He blamed me for being too public. I blamed him for not leaving Victoria sooner. We were better at being secrets than being real. I'm sorry, I said again, and meant it. She'd lost everything for a relationship that couldn't survive exposure to daylight. I heard you made partner, she said, changing the subject. Congratulations. Thanks. The firm was supportive through everything. And I heard you're dating someone. A doctor? The Chicago Gossip Network remained undefeated. Sarah, she's a cardiac surgeon at Northwestern. Good for you. She meant it, I could tell. I hope she makes you happy. She does. Emma nodded, looked at her empty basket. I should go. It was good to see you, Ryan, despite everything. You too, Emma. She started to leave, then turned back. Can I ask you something? That night at APX, how long had you known? 3 weeks, I admitted. I found the wristband 3 weeks before. And you waited, planned it all out. I needed to be sure. And I needed to do it right. She smiled sadly. Of course you did. You always were thorough. She paused. Did you ever love me? Really love me? Yes, I said without hesitation. I loved you completely. That's why it had to end the way it did. She nodded, understanding. Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye, Emma. I watched her leave. This woman I'd once promised to love forever, now just another stranger in a city full of them. Then I finished my shopping and went home to Sarah, who was cooking dinner and singing off-key to whatever was on her playlist. You're late, she called out as I entered. I was about to send a search party. Sorry, ran into someone at the store. She appeared in the doorway, wooden spoon in hand, wearing one of my old t-shirts and looking absolutely perfect. Anyone I know? No, I said, pulling her close. No one important. And it was true. Emma was part of my past now, a chapter closed, a lesson learned. The wristband still sat on my desk at home. Sarah had asked about it once, and I'd told her the whole story. She'd listened, asked thoughtful questions, then said simply, Thank you for trusting me with that. We didn't do Thursday nights. That was her surgery night, and I used the time for myself. Gym, reading, sometimes drinks with friends who didn't need to lie about where they were going. We built our relationship on radical honesty, on choosing each other deliberately every day. A year after the confrontation, Tony the parking attendant called me. I'd slipped him my card that last night at Apex, told him to reach out if he ever needed anything. Mr. Mitchell, sorry to bother you, but thought you might want to know. That lady with the silver Audi was here last night, trying to get in. Management had to turn her away. She's not a member anymore, and nobody would sign her in as a guest. Thanks for letting me know, Tony. No problem. Just thought, well, it seemed sad, you know. Her standing outside, all dressed up with nowhere to go. I thanked him again and hung up. Emma, standing outside Apex on a Thursday night, barred from the world she'd chosen over our marriage. There was poetry in that, though I took no pleasure from it. Sarah found me in my office that night, staring at the wristband. You okay? She asked, perching on the edge of my desk. Yeah, just thinking. About? About how small things can change everything. A torn gym bag, a wristband, a Thursday night. She was quiet for a moment. Do you regret how it ended? No, I said honestly. It ended the only way it could. With truth. That's very lawyerly of you, she teased gently. Maybe, but it's also very human. We all deserve the truth, even when it hurts. She kissed me then, soft and sure. For what it's worth, I'm glad it happened the way it did. Otherwise, you might not be here with me. She was right, of course. Every ending is also a beginning. Every betrayal teaches us who to trust. Every lie shows us the value of truth. The wristband sits on my desk still, in a small frame Sarah bought for it as a joke that wasn't really a joke. Sometimes clients ask about it, and I tell them it's a reminder about the importance of details. They nod like they understand, but they don't. Not really. Only those of us who've been through it understand. The ones who found the evidence, faced the truth, chosen dignity over revenge. We're a small club, but we recognize each other. In courtrooms and boardrooms and sometimes in grocery stores, we see each other and know. Marcus Webb practices law in Milwaukee now, a small firm that handles medical malpractice. His LinkedIn shows him 10 years older than his age, the silver hair now fully gray. He commutes from a studio apartment, I'm told, his Lake Forest life as distant as Emma's Thursday nights. Emma sells medical devices to suburban hospitals. She's good at it, apparently. The skills that made her an excellent pharmaceutical analyst translate well to sales. She drives a Honda now, practical and reliable. No more silver Audis maintained to perfection. Apex continues to thrive, Chicago's elite still gathering for their Thursday nights of secrets and champagne. Charles Worthington still runs it with discreet efficiency. Table 12 still hosts intimate dinners. The wristbands still grant access to those deemed worthy, but not to Emma, not to Marcus. Their numbers were revoked, their access denied. In a city built on who you know and where you can go, they became ghosts, locked out of the very world they destroyed everything to enter. I'm still a member, though I rarely go. When I do, it's with Sarah, openly and honestly. We favor Tuesday nights, less crowded, less weighted with history. The staff treats us well, and if they remember that Thursday night 3 years ago, they're too professional to show it. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found that wristband. If Emma's gym bag hadn't torn. If I'd never thought to check our credit card statements. Would they still be meeting every Thursday? Would I still be sitting at home, trusting my wife, believing in a marriage that existed only in my imagination? But that way lies madness. The truth always surfaces eventually. Secrets have a way of revealing themselves. And maybe it's better that I found out when I did, before we had children to complicate the dissolution, before more years of lies could accumulate like sediment. Sarah and I are getting married next spring. A small ceremony, family and close friends only. No elaborate reception at a private club. No champagne that costs more than car payments. Just truth, promised in front of people who matter. She asked if I wanted to get rid of the wristband before we married, if keeping it meant I was holding on to the past. No, I told her. It's not about the past. It's about the future. About remembering that love isn't just words or feelings. It's choices, made every day, in small moments and big ones. She understood. She always does. The invitation came last week, expensive paper in a cream envelope. The Apex Annual Gala, Chicago's social event of the year. I'm invited as a platinum member, with a +1. Want to go? I asked Sarah over dinner. Will it be weird for you? Maybe, I admitted, but I'm curious to see it through different eyes. With someone I don't have to lie to about being there. Then let's go, she decided. I'll wear something scandalous and we'll give them something new to gossip about. I laughed, because that's what you do when you're with someone who gets you. Who chooses you. Who tells you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. The gala is next Thursday. There's symmetry in that, though I'm trying not to read too much into it. It's just a date on a calendar, not a symbol or a sign. Thursday is just Thursday when you're not keeping secrets. Still, as I write this, I can't help but think about all the Thursdays that led to this moment. The ones Emma spent at Apex with Marcus. The ones I spent alone, not knowing. The one where I walked across that dining room and placed a wristband on their table. The ones since. Building something new with someone who values truth over excitement, love over secrets. Every Thursday is a choice. Emma chose Marcus and champagne and a corner booth in Chicago's most exclusive club. I chose dignity and honesty and the harder path of starting over. Looking back, we both got exactly what we chose. The wristband 2749 sits on my desk as I write this, A reminder that small things can change everything. A torn gym bag, a forgotten receipt, a moment of clarity in a parking garage on a Saturday morning. Some would say I'm dwelling, that keeping the wristband means I haven't really moved on. But they're wrong. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means transforming pain into wisdom, betrayal into better choices, endings into beginnings. Besides, everyone needs a reminder of their own story. Mine just happens to be a black fabric band with a number that once meant exclusive access to a world of secrets. Now it means something else entirely. It means I survived. It means I chose truth over comfortable lies. It means I learned that real love doesn't happen in secret corners of private clubs, but in the open, where everyone can see it, judge it, celebrate it. Next Thursday, I'll walk into Apex with Sarah on my arm. We'll drink champagne that costs too much and make small talk with people who matter too little. Some will remember that night 3 years ago. Some will whisper behind their hands about the man who exposed the Thursday night affairs, who handled betrayal with such public grace. Let them whisper. Let them remember. Let them see what choosing truth looks like. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Make choices. Live with consequences. Hope the champagne is worth the price. And always, always check the gym bag.